Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kenil Gale. With Jamaica taking over as CARICOM chair, the United States is moving to strengthen its partnership with the island. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says this was a major reason for his visit to Kingston yesterday. He says the U.S. recognizes Jamaica's reach within the region and wishes to support the country in its leadership efforts. Andrew Laidley reports.
It was a visit to iron out bilateral issues between Jamaica and the United States. But according to Secretary Tillerson, he also came because of Jamaica's increasing leadership in the Caribbean. He says as Prime Minister Andrew Holness takes up the role of CARICOM chairman, it's important that regional interests align.
Jamaica is our closest partner in this region. The United States understands the importance of that our security and prosperity are very closely tied to that of our Caribbean neighbors, and we're glad to have the partner we have in Jamaica. And I noted that the Prime Minister is assuming the chairmanship of CARICOM, and so I think it made our discussions even that much more timely and useful, because we did speak about the region more broadly as well, beyond just Jamaica and the U.S. relations. We did talk about several aspects of the U.S.-Jamaica bilateral relationship, and our view is of the outsized role that Jamaica does play in the region as a leader to other countries here in the Caribbean basin.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State says the work Jamaica has done in combating lottery scamming is commendable and worthy of recognition.
We appreciate the government of Jamaica has made important progress combating the lotto scams, cooperating closely with U.S. authorities to extradite suspected lotto scammers to the United States and establishing a bilateral lotto scam task force, and we welcome that.
In the meantime, he says the U.S. will continue to lend its support to Jamaica's security operations, noting that it's in the best interest of the entire hemisphere.
The U.S. government will continue to support Jamaica's security forces and criminal justice system. It is in both of our countries' interest to work together to investigate crimes, share intelligence, conduct asset seizures where legally and appropriate to do so, and bolster existing anti-corruption and anti-gang programs.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley.
The Financial Investigations Division, FID, is calling on local financial institutions to build stronger partnerships with the unit in order to better investigate and prosecute financial crimes. Jamila Maitland reports.
UK consultant to the Financial Investigations Division, Gary Dixon, says the FID often has challenges investigating crimes because organizations refuse to assist without a court order.
We're all trying to do the same thing here, which is stop the bad guys making a profit from crime. But we need your assistance then to allow them to do their job in a more effective way.
Mr. Dixon, who runs a training and accreditation scheme for police officers across the Caribbean, says the program has trained over 200 police officers as financial investigators since 2012.
To be a financial investigator in the region, you will have attended the training course. You will then be followed by a period during which you'll be accredited, and it's a period of mentoring. So you do the theory course, you have 6 months to a year to supply some evidence to your mentor that you have utilized the financial investigation training, and at a point you'll be signed off as an accredited financial investigator.
The 2-week training is designed to help build the capacity of police officers in the region to investigate financial crimes.
Financial investigation needed to be professionalized around the region. And by that, what we say is it needs to be standardized, it needs to be quality assured, to the point where a financial investigator in Barbados has had the same training, goes through the same regime as someone who's in Jamaica.
Meanwhile, he says he wants the financial institutions to be part of the training in an effort to build trust for a long-term sustainable relationship with the Financial Investigations Division. Mr. Dixon was speaking at the recently held FID Taking the Profit Out of Crime conference. For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
The University of the West Indies, Mona, opened this year's staging of Research Day yesterday. Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports Minister Olivia Babs-Grange, who was the keynote speaker at the opening ceremony, emphasized the importance of research to Jamaica's development. Javon Keys has more.
Every year, the University of the West Indies Mona has its research days, where the campus showcases new findings and groundbreaking work conducted by its faculty throughout the year. This year, the focus is on powering development through partnership in research and innovation. Speaking at the opening ceremony yesterday, Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Minister Olivia Babs-Grange noted that the UWI has been very successful in linking theory with practical skills to enhance overall development. She said the university has also added a great deal to the region's global impact.
During the last 70 years, the University of the West Indies has emerged as the premier tertiary institution in the Commonwealth Caribbean. The University of the West Indies has created an environment of learning, growth, and development that emphasizes intellectual curiosity, service, leadership, and a recognition of the Caribbean states as important contributors to global growth and development.
Minister Grange also pointed out that this year's staging of the event will provide empirical data on a number of prominent regional issues.
UWI research contributions to Jamaica and the region's economic and social policies and processes remain unparalleled. This year's research days focus on a variety of issues in health, economics, climate change, alternative energy, and crime is an extension of that indomitable legacy.
In the meantime, Minister Grange argued that the government is committed to research despite economic constraints.
The government also plays a key role in facilitating the development of our research and innovation ecosystem. As our fiscal space strengthens, we will continue to commit additional funding to research. But at this time, I'm proud to say that the government has committed $30 million over the next 3 years to fund high-quality research projects in the areas of indigenous knowledge and water research as part of Jamaica's South Africa Agreement on Scientific Technological Cooperation.
For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
And if you haven't done so yet, you can still go check out UWI's Research Day, which ends tomorrow. Still to come, Wesinka Group records increased revenue despite challenges. The details after the break. Welcome back. The Wesinka Group has recorded an increase in revenue and gross profit for the quarter ending December 31, 2017. The company says it was able to achieve this despite challenges associated with increased rainfall during the period. Here's more. Wesinka says revenue for the quarter was $6.14 billion. This represented an increase of 14.5% over the $5.36 billion achieved in the corresponding quarter of 2016. Gross profit for the quarter was $2.39 billion, 26.3% more than the $1.9 billion recorded last year. Wesinka says selling, distribution, and administrative expenses for the quarter totaled $1.54 billion, or 15.7% more than the $1.33 billion for the corresponding 2016 quarter. Expenses for the quarter included $26 million related to the May 2016 fire and $71 million for the year to date. Additionally, included in finance costs for the quarter is an approximately $79 million loss on US dollar deposits due to the revaluation of the Jamaican dollar. Profits attributable to shareholders was $578 million, or 16 cents per share, compared to the 13 cents per share recorded in 2016. Meanwhile, Wesinka says the quarter under review saw some challenges even as the company recorded fairly good growth in top-line revenue. The beverage giant points out that the quarter saw some of the highest level of rainfall in many years, which does not augur well for beverage sales. The rains also delayed construction of the company's cold storage facilities, which impacted its chilled and frozen business. In the meantime, as the conversation about a potential tax on sugary beverages heats up, Wisinka says during the quarter it continued to look at ways to reduce sugar intake for consumers through initiatives such as reducing portion sizes in its full sugar products, as well as reduced sugar formulas for its beverage portfolio. The company says it also continues to work with the government and industry to find ways to improve the reduction and recycling of plastics. NCB Global Finance is offering invoice factoring services to contractors who want to increase their cash flow. The product has been on the market in Trinidad for over 18 months. Leroy Hall tells us more.
NCB Global Finance CEO Angus Young says the company's invoice factoring product is useful in a landscape where contractors have to bear most of the risks associated with construction.
So the government is saying, you, Mr. Contractor, you go raise your own money and build what you're supposed to build, and once you keep your end of the contract and deliver what you're supposed to, well, we'll make you whole at that point in time.
He explains that while some contractors are better able to finance projects on their own, they nonetheless may suffer over time as monies get tied up in accounts receivables and cash flow is slow.
So the big guys have the wallet to stomach this PPP model, the small guys not so much, but those that do, where their limitations start to show is because when they raise the money themselves and they pursue these projects and they're building, the clock is literally ticking because time is money, interest is accruing daily, they're under pressure, the longer they delay, the more interest they pay, and they're on fixed price contracts, right?
Mr. Young argues that while NCB Global buys the invoices on discounted prices, which means they get to keep a fraction of the money received from the contract, the contractors stand to reap real benefits as they will obtain working capital almost immediately.
You're a contractor and you're owed $10 million from the government. NCB will say to you, we'll buy 90% of this invoice. So I will take $9 million, discount it over a period of time that we negotiate at whatever discount rate we negotiate, and let's just assume that comes up to $8.5 million. NCB will give you $8.5 million today at time zero, which you will then take and mobilize project 2 or project 3. All right? So that cost that you give up in the discount is really probably going to help you deal with the opportunity you forego if you didn't have the working capital.
The NCB Global Finance CEO was addressing the Jamaica Stock Exchange's Investments and Capital Markets Conference recently. For BATV News, I'm Leroy Hall.
The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, has pledged up to $800 million to help hurricane-affected countries over the next 5 years. CDB President Dr. Warren Smith made the announcement at the bank's annual press conference in Barbados yesterday. Kalila Reynolds was there.
The calm seas here in Bridgetown, Barbados are a far cry from the destructive force these very same waters posed just last year elsewhere in the Eastern Caribbean when 2 powerful hurricanes hit the region back to back. Well, the region's now rebuilding with assistance from the CDB that's expected to help lead growth.
We are making $700 to $800 million available over the next 5 years to help affected borrowing member countries recover from the devastating effects of the recent hurricanes. We cannot underscore enough the urgent need for liquidity in the aftermath of natural disasters.
And the CDB is also boosting funding for the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF, which made its biggest payouts ever last year to storm-affected countries.
CDB augmented the capital of the CRIF SPC, that's the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance Facility, through a grant of $14 million to provide enhanced and more affordable insurance coverage to borrowing members which insure with this facility.
Dr. Smith says the financial cost of responding to natural disasters has been increasing. He says the region needs to improve resilience by building back better and stronger. That's why every new project CDB approves will now have to pass the climate test.
After a period of testing in 2017, CDB initiated systematic screening for climate risks in all its investment projects and in its country strategy work. As a consequence, we are now financing infrastructure projects that are more climate resilient. Disaster risk management has been mainstreamed in our operations.
And while that will make it tougher for Jamaican and other projects to get funding from the CDB, it will also benefit the region in the long run.
We routinely now screen every infrastructure project for climate vulnerability. And as a consequence, we are now financing infrastructure projects that are more climate resilient. This approach has been paying some dividends, as evidenced by a CDB finance sea defense project in Dominica, which withstood the damaging effects of Hurricane Maria last year.
Kalila Reynolds reporting for BATV News from CDB headquarters in Bridgetown, Barbados.
Stay with us. Regional and international stories are after the break. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international stories. The Barbados Central Bank says tourists spent over $1 million more last year than they did in 2016. More in this report.
Following the loss of 2 direct air links with Latin America in as many years, Barbados has managed to secure another connection. This week, Minister of Tourism Richard Seeley announced that after several years of trying to secure its services, Barbados has finally struck a deal with Panama-based airline Copa Airlines, which will result in 2 weekly flights beginning in July this year. In August last year, the Colombia-based Avianca Airlines announced an indefinite suspension to its flights between Bridgetown and Bogota due to operational limitations. That was followed by the suspension of the weekly Gulf flights from Brazil to Barbados.
The government has been embarking actively on diversifying our source markets, and the Latin American region, of course, has received attention from this government. We had the Gulf flight out of Sao Paulo. We had the Avianca flight out of Bogota, Colombia, both of which were suspended for different reasons. And this partnership, COPA, allows us not only to have more business or get business from Colombia and Brazil, but also the rest of Latin America. And it is a very strong player in that market, and we look forward to seeing the Latin American market grow tremendously.
Seeley is upbeat that with the new direct link to the Latin American market, several sectors here will benefit.
So even from beyond tourism, the cultural exchanges and so on that can ensue from this service are tremendous. So I am very happy to hear that this flight is a reality, and I am certain it will be a success, not only for tourism and continuing to see the numbers grow, but also in terms of improving the relations between Panama and Barbados.
Uganda is set to become a big oil producer as international oil giants line up to exploit a new find on the Lake Albert. But this requires a lot of land, which has local farmers concerned. Here's more.
Marabou storks appear to keep watch over Lake Albert. These waters have been fished for generations. But following the discovery of big oil reserves, this area will be transformed. In Hoima, the main town, change is in the air.
We have seen oil companies coming around. They have offices in town. They do corporate social responsibility even in some parts of the town. So we are really honored to have oil around, and it is going to turn around the whole economic situation.
Groundwork for an international airport has already begun, and there will be a refinery and a pipeline to carry oil to Tanzania's coast. Huge investments requiring a lot of land. Bukomu is a farmer, but the pipeline will cut through his village, and a rich investor claims his property. 4 years ago, the authorities moved to expel local people.
We saw the police arrive with other people who had machetes and sticks. They started to fire in the air and sprayed tear gas. They chased us away and burned down our homes. They even beat people of all ages that day.
Okumu built a new home. His case is before a court, but he knows the outcome. Even if his property claim is proven, the plot will be seized, he says. Esther claims to have suffered such a fate already.
They forced me to sign and accept the price they offered. We are victims. We are not happy at all.
Esther says that she will never reclaim her previous standard of living. Others agreed to be relocated. Around 50 families have been housed on this estate, but they too feel deceived. Electricity was promised, but never came. And there's only one water point, creating tensions.
Fights are always developing in this area because the community members, these ones who came, are saying this ball belongs to us, and these ones are saying also we also need water.
Despite the thousands of jobs that will be created by the oil, farmers here feel dispossessed. For some, the black gold under Lake Albert has already become a curse.
Hong Kong has one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world, but as property prices keep on soaring, salaries are struggling to keep up, forcing many people to leave their homes. More in this Al Jazeera report.
In the summer, an oven, and in the winter, an icebox. That's how this mother describes the home she shares with her teenage daughters. The 16-square-meter shack is perched on top of a 22-story building.
Water leaks through the ceiling when it rains. One of the windows cracked during the typhoon, and we could only cover it with tape and paper.
She moved into this illegal structure 10 years ago after her husband died. They live under the constant threat of eviction, and now the landlord wants to raise the rent from the current $500 a month.
We don't have any rent control legislation or any protection for the tenancy. So that's why for the poor people it's very hard.
Human rights advocacy groups say more than 250,000 people in Hong Kong live in illegal structures or squalid conditions. And every year that number rises by 20%. Private housing prices have gone up 430% since 2013, while the average household income has only increased 45% in the past decade, which means fewer people can afford property in the city. And with the average wait for public housing at around 5 years, there has been a call for a more innovative approach to the crisis. And this is one suggestion. The OPOD tube housing is made from readily available concrete pipes. Its creators say they can be stacked up and squeezed into vacant spaces in urban areas to provide starter homes. Another idea being discussed is container homes. Shipping containers are already used as offices or shops in some areas. But these architects say there is another solution, one that addresses the fact that only 7% of the city's land is used for residential purposes.
Industrial use is changing in Hong Kong. You don't need so many factory buildings. There's a big stock of them. If you convert that to residential, that's going to bring on stream a lot of floor area for residential very quickly.
Experts say the problem is not a lack of space, but government policy. Unlike other cities, here the government owns all the land and leases a limited amount to developers. And so, if property prices drop, so does the government's revenue, which means there's little incentive to bring down the sky-high prices. Divya Gopalan, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up after the break. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 48 stocks traded today, of which 21 advanced, 21 declined, and 6 traded firm. The main JSE index advanced by 1,350 points to close at 287,622. The junior index declined by 41 points to close at 2,885 points. 11.5 million units traded, valued at almost $104 million on the Jamaican dollar market, while on the US dollar market, over 8,000 units traded, valued at almost $2,000 US. JMMB Group 7.5%, with over 2 million units changing hands, accounted for 24% of the market volume. Lascar Distributors was second with 1.9 million units trading. Wasinka Group accounted for 1 million units, amounting to 10% of market volume crossing the floor. Jetcon Corporation was the top advancer, up 53 cents to close at $4.73, followed by Jamaica Producers Group, up $1.07 to close at $16.97, and Honeybun, up 27 cents to close at $5.37. The main decliners were C2W Music, down 9 cents to close at 51 cents, followed by Lascar Distributors losing 49 cents to close at $3.97, and Paramount Trading down 20 cents to close at $3.19. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground on the US and British pound today, but gained on the Canadian dollar. The US dollar ended the day selling for $126.28, gaining 39 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian lost 65 cents to the Jamaican, selling for $98.84, while the pound sterling closed the day at $175.55, gaining 21 cents on the Jamaican dollar. And that's all the news we have for this evening, but before we go, a recap of our top story. With Jamaica taking over as CARICOM chair, the United States is moving to strengthen its partnership with the island. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says this was a major reason for his visit to Kingston yesterday. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kenil Gale. Pleasant viewing.